Hey everyone, let's talk about the latest banner that we've gotten, the YRP banner, or as someone else already spoiled it, it's fun to stay at the YMCA. But today we're gonna look at Songstress Yuna, Berserker Rikku, and Knight Paine. So this is a 3-in-1 review, as you can see. It's gonna take a while, so let's get started. We'll start this off with Songstress Yuna. She is a mage unit. In base though, she is a supporter with no multicast, which is a huge issue in my opinion. Because while the abilities that she has, those are pretty decent. Like take for example Battlecry Plus. It's a 160 Machina killer, 300 LB damage increase to the party, and 400% stats to the party. That's all really cool and all, but you always have to keep in mind you can't multicast that, so it's each cast on its own, you cannot multicast it. And the same applies to Disenchant. For example, for FFX2, it's a 160 Reaper killer, party-wide, Reaper mitigation 50%, LB modifier for self, so that's all pretty nice. But again, no multicast, it's an issue. And what I really dislike, especially considering what global units have, is that her elemental power water is locked to EX +2 and it's still single target. So that's her rolling amp for the 100% water amp. It starts off at 60 for 3 turns, goes on to 80% on the second turn, and on the third turn it's that 100% we've all come to know and love from units such as Tsukiko, Chizuru and Sylvie. Now again, this is just single target. She can target it at least, but still, she was the unit next to Paine that really needed most buffs. This should have been AoE party-wide, and she would have been a very good unit. But alas, she is not. So it is what it is. Then there's the Brave Shift, where she shifts into the Floral Falal form, where she is waterlocked, hard-locked, because she is magic damage. No star next to it, meaning no physical killers. Actually, one of the older type of units, the magic type finishers, so to say. She has 3 notable abilities. It's Dream Pollen, True Electric Whirl, and Aqua Whirl. Those are her elemental attacks. The Dream Pollen is also a 25% Staff Rod Instrument Imperil, amongst other things. All those attacks are tag attacks, including her Limit Burst, which we'll be talking about in a second. But what really grinds my gears are those 120 Imperils. While I didn't criticize Tsukiko for it, because she has the fields to increase those Imperils, I will say 120 Imperils in 2022 on their own, without anything else to boost those Imperils, such as fields, is pretty outdated. So, and that's not cutting it. And it's bad unit design. Now she does retain, for example, the elemental power water buff, but considering that her Brave Shift is locked to, I believe it is 2 turns, you won't be using that power amp in her Brave Shift at all. And the Brave Shift being trans shift is kind of a nuisance, because you're pretty much forced to LB on turn. The turn you're limit burst, you're shifting, or else you're gonna be running into issues anyway. So I don't like her being trans shift. She should have been a perma shift or a true shift unit, but oh well. The limit burst, let's check them out. Base form limit burst is your standard supporter limit burst with the water imbue and M45 for the party. At least that's something. And ironically, her base LB is weaker than her cooldown, in that it only does 350 stat buffs and 250 LB buff for the party. I don't know why they couldn't give her a 400% LB buff when she already has a cooldown that does better in both ways. But I guess those 400% stat buffs or LBs are for premium units only, which is the dumbest choice I've seen in a while. But so be it. The Brave Shift is then that aforementioned attack, water magic, hard locked limit burst. It's an additional 100x against Reapers, which makes this rather interesting against Reaper types, and 150x in water magic against everything else. Meaning, with that 150 increase from the cooldown that you have to use once per, or that you have to single cast. It's 300-400x in total. She can do some decent damage, but always keep in mind she has a rather low base magic, she gears rather and even with focus magic she just doesn't reach the numbers that units such as Olive or Tsukiko can reach, and thus performs worst. Furthermore, being a hard-locked magic unit means she has issues gearing for killers, because we're still in a kind of place where certain magic killers are hard to come by, whereas physical killers have been very easy to do lately. So yeah, that's a Kent. Now let's check out her Trustmaster, Super Trustmaster, and the Vision card. The Trustmaster clothes exclusive to females with 1k HP, 30 magic, and 60 spirit, so that's more accompanying her supporter role with 20% all element resistance. It's decent for elemental Tetris, but all in all I feel like it's not worth getting. Whereas the Super Trustmaster, being exclusive to mage units, which is fine. Olive, Tsukiko, Angela, etc. They are all mage units, so that's fine. It's okay. Nobody else wants to use this, so it's okay to be exclusive to that one. And it's 100 magic flat out, so that's the highest mage user accessory we have, and it's really good. So, but then again, it's only really good for the top 0.1% of Dark Vision who min-max for that rank 1 or top 10 spot, because I feel like if you're going to pull for this banner, you're either a huge fan of X2 or you're pulling for Dark Vision / Vision Worlds, the few ones that are uncappable. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Honestly, the Vision card is pretty much trash too. 110 attack and magic at base at level 10, 75% killers to Reaper, Machina, or Human, physical, magical, which is okay. But overall, it's just not worth it getting it. It's just clogging your Vision card inventory, in my opinion. Just low stats. Killers are not worth it. We're having so much better, especially with the global cards that are coming out each month now. They are all so much better. They do so much more than these trash cards. You will never end up using this one, trust me. Now, let's move on to the next unit. And Berserker Rikku is technically speaking, or not even technically, but factually speaking, is the best of the three for more than one reason. But we'll get to that. So in base form, she's a chainer. In Brave Shift, she's a tech LB chainer with lightning element. But being physical DPS, she can always be imbued with different things. But lightning is her primary element. And in base form, she has Unhinge, which is a really nice ability as it has 140 Imperil to lightning. Which, again, I wish Yuna had. Like, I don't understand why Rikku gets to have a 140 Imperil, but Yuna, spoiler ahead, Paine also doesn't get such a high Imperil. So it kind of boggles my mind that they did 3 vastly different kits with every kit being worse than the previous one, going down from Rikku, because Rikku is the best one of the 3 and everything else is just such a step down. And we'll get to the worst one in just a few minutes, but yeah, Rikku has half a decent kit for a JP unit, let's be honest here. Now, she still has glaring kit issues, because as you can see, that's pretty much all there is to active decent abilities. She has a cover ability, which you will never end up using in base, but she has no amps. That's kind of a bad choice. Again, like, I don't understand what they are going for with these units. Yeah, obviously, everybody uses Sylvie these days, so that's not an issue. But if you wanted to use her isolated from Sylvie, you're gonna have issues. Or if you don't even have Sylvie, Rikku just isn't that good anymore on her own. And I feel like JP devs, they just don't know what they're doing. And it shows in the kit design. Even though I'm rather happy that, even though I'm very happy that they've chosen to make more Brave Shift units even lately, it just goes to show that they still don't understand what makes a good unit these days, or 5 months when this released in JP. Yeah, other than that, she has a perfect dispel on Crackdown, the Brave Shift. She has more of the same, has that 25 Imperil to both throwing weapons, guns, and fists. This ability was buffed on the global server, and one of the 4 weapon imperils she has got added. I don't know which one it is, but honestly at 25%, none of those are even considerably good. And furthermore, she's also a transshift unit, and her base kit doesn't allow for any usage of the brave shifted abilities. Because as you can see, Unhinged and the limit burst you have to use, those pretty much lock you into the base form. And then you add in Tyrus' Spirit, that's 3 turns you have to spend in base form. And we'll get to the limit burst in just a second, but keep in mind, Unhinged, 3 turns. It's 4 turns in reality because it's 3 turns on the enemy side of things, but her limit burst, and let's get to that right now. The base form limit burst increases her LB modifier by 150x for 3 turns, meaning you have to use it on turn 2. So turn 1 is the 140 Imperil, turn 2 is the limit burst, turn 3 is Tyrus' Spirit, because on turn 4 you are forced to use her limit burst in Brave Shift, because otherwise A, Tyrus' Spirit runs out, B, the LB mod increase runs out too. And that means you absolutely cannot use the weapon imperils in Brave Shift. So the Brave Shift, being trans, is a huge nuisance. You'd actually want to use the weapon imperil turn 1, but then you can't unshift because you're locked to the trans shift. And I feel like Gumi did a lot better with Chizuru than Gumi did with Berserker Rikku. So Gumi did well with the trans shift on Chizuru, even though trans shift is always kind of iffy to use. But here it shows why trans shift is bad design, because you cannot use most of her kit, if any, when going for max burst. The Brave Shifted Limit Burst on the end also target hack, which I highly appreciate. And it's a 200x baseline, 50x when fighting humans. But as you can see, it gets increased by 150x from the base LB. You can further increase this with Tidus's STMR and Tyrus' Spirit, as well as Sylvie's Limit Burst, Brave Shift Limit Burst. So that's a pretty huge modifier, and she does decent damage when the lightning element applies, and especially the human type applies as well. Let's check out the Trustmaster, Super Trustmaster and Vision card. Trustmaster is also locked or exclusive to females with 65 attack and 60 defense. And whoops, I didn't fulfill that sentence at the bottom, but it's a 50x modifier increase to all physical abilities, and that includes jumps, and that means that it's very, very awesome for Sky. And in fact, this is the missing piece for the so-called Exodia Sky build, which I coined being Exodia, and I love it. My favorite unit is now complete to do fine in the meta. But yeah, then there is the Super Trust Master. It's a one-handed fist, and this should be a red flag already to you. Has a fixed variance at 1.15x and 300 attack. While the attack, great stuff, very high, it doesn't save the weapon from being straight up unusable, even though it has 200% chain ramp, normal chain, elemental chain. This is not your modifier, chain modifier increase. This is different. It just speeds up the timer to reach the maximum amount of damage, but it doesn't work the same way as, for example, Lightning's STMR. That's 2 different things. And additionally, it has 4 LB crystals per turn. Nice, but I can't see this being any more useful other than being a 4 limit burst per crystal weapon for units that want to fill their LB gauge faster. And the card, same as Yuna's, still trash. So yeah, all in all, TMR final piece for Exodia Sky, otherwise forgettable. There aren't that many units that want to use this, especially being that low on attack stat. And yeah, STMR in a true double hand meta, this is just bad. Let's move on to the worst of all 3 units, sorry. It's Dark Knight Paine, and she is a pain to use. She's an LB chainer in base, although she should have the debuffer role, because she only has the attacker role. she is a tag LB chainer locked to dark in Brave Shift. And what you see here is pretty much all there is to her kit. And when you see it, you realize she has no amplification as well, which is really, really bad in her case. She has that HP sacrifice stuff, which is also bad. Yeah, it's faithful to the game design of X2, but while it's not an issue for Dark Visions, you're not supposed to take damage in Dark Visions. If you, for whatever reason, wanted to use her in Clash of Wills, that would be an issue. Furthermore, she has only 120 imperils. Like, again, Rikku has 140 imperils on a cooldown. Oh, 140 imperil. Why can't Paine? What's more is that Fill LB cooldown or Grandis. All three units have it, and I feel like it's the dumbest ability I've seen in a while. Prior to these units, Arlem chose to do single-use Grandises with maxed LB gauge, 280 stat increase because 280 is super good for units these days, right? And amps, etc. That was decent. While still not being good, it was okay, at least there's some kind of attack buff. But Paine has none of it. She has no attack buff, she has no LB buff, she has no amp, she has no killer buffs, she's got nothing. This is everything she has. It's the worst kit I've seen in ages. It's worse than the 7-star kits we've had 3 years ago. That's how bad it is. I don't know what they were smoking. They probably gave up halfway through designing these units, and it pretty much shows in Dark Knight Paine. And yeah, she also has a few weapon imperils, dagger sword, greatsword, and katana, 25%. Again, we have so much better than this. You won't ever be using it. So here's the limit burst. 135 dark imperil. Oh, there is a dark imperil. Excuse me, but yeah. 135, 87 break, and this is why I said I would have liked if she had a debuffer roll, because that would have meant we can do something else with her. But for whatever reason I chose to not give her a debuffer roll. I mean, 87 defense break, it's not good by any means. We have 89 breaks from other JP units, 90% breaks from several global units. So that's kind of, yeah, I don't know. It's a hard sell, but at least it modifier increased her LB to by 170, which is okay, I guess. But then again, the Brave Shifted LB, dark physical damage, 70x increase when you're fighting a fairy, 200 baseline dark physical. It's also tag, which is nice, but again, she has no amp, she has no stat buffs, she has no LB buff, so she entirely hinges on your supporters. Now, Sylvie obviously does the trick, but keep in mind, having no amplification on her own means she will always have any amplification that you use. Meaning Sylvie's 100% amp to lightning or earth will only be effectively 50% because we will always mix elements and you will always have that issue of having 0 plus 100 divided by 2, always 50. And the lower your amp that you use, for example, if you were to use a water amp, say Paine's 45, that'll be only a 22.5% amp in total, or 22% because the game always rounds down. And that means she will always deal bad damage. Full stop. It's just that bad. She's really not worth using, trust me. And this continues to her overall item availability. It's not close, I just realized it's probably heavy armor. I should be checking this out, what it actually is. The Trustmaster of her, I actually pulled her when I went with tickets for Rikku. So the Trustmaster, it is actually close. It is actually close, so never mind me. It doesn't look like close, but it is close because reasons. And has 80 attack, 80 defense, pretty okay I'd say. But it's also exclusive to females and it has 50% true double hand attack, which is kind of whatever, honestly. It's not good by any means. And the Super Thrustmaster on the other hand, 85 attack, 75 LB damage. And I believe that one is attacker only. I forgot to add this one. I'm fairly certain that this one is attackers only. Let me quickly check in the game. It is attackers only, so keep that in mind. I feel like that's fine in this case, but still, it's a good one. It's technically the highest attack ring, if you exclude the Clash of Wills ring, and having 75% LB damage on it, rather neat. But then again, there are certain accessories, such as Warrior's Prayer Rain, ones that has huge killers on it. That might be better depending the situation and if killers apply. So while it is the highest, there are potentially some better equipment pieces. But still, really good. Not downplaying this by any means. One of the best. And the vision card, still trash. Alright, so let's get to the more interesting part, which is the damage calculation. Because I made a mistake. I forgot to change this slide. So this is not what it's actually at anymore. We're using a lot more. Just check my latest video for Tsukiko. That one has the slide, the correct one. Sorry for that. I'll fix it for next week. So these are the builds for Yuna, Rikku, and Paine. Please always keep in mind that Rikku and Paine benefit from Orange Jerk, whereas Yuna doesn't benefit from Yuna's necklace, which I find kind of weird. I checked beforehand and it still doesn't have magic on it, so too bad, I guess. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to this build. And this is the Exodia Sky build I was talking about. So the Exodia Sky build consists of the Dragoon Helm, Riku's TMR, Kimari's STMR, Sky's Intrinsic, and the Versus Roundworm card. Meaning you only have 2 slots available. You are forced to use Indestructible Light on her. And then there is just 2 remaining killers. And as you can see, versus innate races such as a demon, beast, no, that's dragon, sorry, beast, aquatic, and insect, she performs exceptionally well, because instead of a black dragon, you could use Behemoth. You would instantly cap things such as beast or dragon. Or beast, dragon is capped. Beast you would cap instantly. You would cap the bugs instantly. So she has 4 innate races that she performs exceptionally well against when you hit on race. But if you're going off race, which is my sheet in a nutshell, she has that issue of not being able to fulfill or max out killers as easily. And it shows in the damage result. This is it. So Sky still shoots up quite fairly high via Riku's TMR, and she performs at 73.52% of jacked damage. This is again a worst case scenario, but if you're going for the best case scenario, she's 92.53% of jacked damage, which is crazy for a unit that is 1 year old at this point. So Sky is a force to be reckoned with, and always keep in mind, you can imbue jacked with 100% amp, you cannot with Sky. Sky only has that 50% amp of her own, or a little bit less / more depending on which element you use, because you could technically use Tsukiko's 55% amp to Earth from her base form limit burst, and that would increase Sky's average amp by 2 percentage points. It's still a damage increase, but you know. But yeah, overall Sky, when she hits on target, on innate race, she's really good, comparable to Tsukiko. And yeah, I mean, 3rd best damage dealer in the game if you don't count Crowned Auron. I feel like that's really good. That's exceptionally good even. But yeah, in a worst case scenario, she's good, but yeah, has that issue of gearing for killers. But let's get back to the 3 units that are today's topic. So as you can see, Makinamor Rikku, that's a brave shifted form. name. She is the best one of the batch, sitting at 8.57% of Jack's damage, being the winner of the trio. Paine sits at 69%, nice, of Jack's damage, and Yuna is just a measly 58.5% of Tsukiko's damage, thus being the loser of this week. And most of it stems from killers, magic killers being still hard to come by, as well as just having low base stats, but that also applies to Paine, which is why she isn't that high up. And yeah, with all the modifier increases, Titus STMR, Ty vs Spirit, as well as Sylvie buff, Rikku has a 531 modifier, Paine 551, and Yuna, not having access to things such as Titus STMR or Tybus, has 321, but she has that focus magic that she could technically use. Yeah, has some decent damage, but it's a pain to use focus magic because she cannot use it in base, and that's oof. But yeah, technically speaking, still decent, but it's a huge issue. So yeah, that brings us to the verdicts. Yuna, yeah, 2 out of 10. For water fights, yeah, that's her only niche, but still not very good in that regard. So all there is, very good STMR, and technically speaking, she has a pretty good party support kit, but the issue is she cannot multicast stuff, and that translates into the bad side of things of the kit. She has just huge and glaring issues. For example, no multicast, overall, just cannot do much. Her damage is absolutely irrelevant. She has bad imperils, a super trashy vision card. The transhift makes her very, very clunky to use, and she's hardlocked to water, but I didn't deduct points for the last two things. If I did, I'd have to deduct a point from Chizuru as well. I didn't, so that's okay. But with her amp being just for Yuna herself, she just does nothing for the overall meta. As of now, because water is so far out of the game, it's not even on the horizon of making a comeback. So Songstress Yuna at the end of the day is just merely STMR bait for the top 0.1% of Dark Visions. That's pretty much it. Rikku, on the other hand, she's decent. 4 out of 10 means she does have more usage cases than Yuna. Has strong damage, both general and versus innate race. Okay kit for a JP unit, 140 lightning apparel, and I didn't add a point to that because it's very few units that benefit from it, but the TMR still decent. The bad side of the kit, no amp for self or the party, trashy vision card and STMR, low weapon apparel, and I did deduct a point for Rikku because the transhift actually is a nuisance. You cannot use anything in the Brave Shift other than her LB when going for that optimal rotation. And it forces you to use external weapon imperils. It would have regardless because the imperils to weapons are bad anyway. But her being transhift is an extra nuisance, and I deducted a point from this, and I made a slight error. She's locked to lightning element. It's fine in her case, to be honest. We have Sylvie for that, so that's okay. But yeah, still a nuisance, has 0% self-amp, and also gets halved. So yeah, all in all, and that's the main reason for being a 4 out of 10, not higher, is that lightning just went out of the meta. It's such a weird spot for Rikku to be in. She could have been the star of this banner and going forward, with lightning being so prominent, but now that we're in an earth meta thanks to Tsukiko, she's in a weird spot. She's technically such a good unit, but cannot perform well anymore. It's a pity. So now the only function she has is being a TMR bait for Sky fanboys such as myself, and when the boss forces you to use lightning element, she's still your top pick. No doubt about this. If there is a Dark Visions going forward, one of the final 3 bosses hard locks you to lightning, she's your top pick. No doubt about it. So yeah, that's one of the good things about her. If you have to use lightning, she's on your party. But if you don't have to, she won't be coming. And that's kind of too bad. She's such a cool... I love her sprite too. The Samus suit in Brave Ship, it looks actually cool. And the animation work on all 3 units is also really great. So, what a pity. What a pity about Rikku. I was really hyped about her myself, just because she's actually a decent unit, but now with Tsukiko out, too bad. And then there is Paine. Yeah, I mean, I think I made my point very clear. She's absolute trash. The only good thing she has going for her is the STMR, and she has a disgustingly bad kit. No amps, stat buffs, killer buffs, no damage buff, just a mod buff on the LB. Doesn't have the break attack or roll. I don't know what Alum was smoking with this unit, but they should stop smoking it. She has a trash vision card, low imperils. Yeah, 135 could be good, but come on. And yeah, Dark Locked unit without imperil makes external amps just half as good. I think they should have said imperils, but amplifications, but oh well. You know what I mean, hopefully. So yeah, Dark Knight Paine has absolutely no redeeming qualities. Pure estimate bait for the top 0.1% of Dark Vision. One of the worst units in terms of kit design I've ever seen in the entire Neo Vision era, and the SLB trash gets treated better than this. So all in all, I feel like if you're not going for top 10/top 100 Dark Visions or are a huge fan of Final Fantasy X2, you should totally skip this banner. It's not worth going for. Pure STMR bait, sadly. None of the units are meta anymore. All of them are vastly outdated by global options, which is a shame in the case of Rikku, because she could have been really good. And that's it for today's review. Thank you all for watching, and yeah, if next week there's a 50% chance of it being Regina and another 50% of it being the Dagger/Kuja banner. If it is Regina, I will do a proper review. If it is Kuja/Dagger, I might skip, I'll be honest. Kuja/Dagger are not worth it anymore, especially us being in an Earth meta right now. I might skip, I might do a super short review. I have an idea for 1-minute reviews, but I'm not quite sure whether I'll do it. We'll see. But yeah, we'll see what comes and then I'll decide. So, have a wonderful rest of the Sunday evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you're from. And see you next time. Bye bye.